Guys, this reading month was not great. Welcome back. If you're new, my name is Kristen and you've reached my little corner of the internet. Hi, hello. How are we doing today? I have got my October reading wrap up for you, which is nuts. What do you mean? Grab a snack, get cozy. I mean, I really don't know how long this video is going to be. I have 7 books to talk about that I read in the month of October, which is below average for me, actually. I usually read about 8 to 10. Well, the beginning of the year, I was like averaging like 5 to 6, and then I like took a really big jump like in the early summer, and I was really getting into it. And then I completed my reading goal at the beginning of October, and I just kind of like fell off the train pretty hard. But not all the books that I read this month were bad. I have a few winners in here, but mostly some not great reads on from me. So yes, I did read 7 books in the month of October. I had an average of a 3.3 star rating. I was pretty harsh with some of the books this month. I'm just now at the point, like, it also too, after like finishing my reading goal, I feel like I get a little bit more, not strict, but I want like some really good books. Like, it's almost the end of the year. I'm not looking for some like nonchalant palate cleansers. I just really want some like heavy hitting books right now. I don't know why that is. Well, I just explained it to you. It's because it's getting closer to the end of the year and I just want some more, I guess not like meaningful books, just like, something where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember reading that last year and it was like really, really good. I want some of those towards the end of the year. So this month, I did not really find any of those kinds of books. I found quite the opposite, actually. Well, we're gonna get into it and talk about it, but I read 2 fantasy books, 4 romance books, and 1 memoir. Ooh, I know. I read my first nonfiction book, I think like literally ever since I started reading in 2022. I've been meaning to read a lot of them. Like, I started reading Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Parton? No. Alderton. Hello. What? You can't blame me, okay? And I want to finish it. I just haven't, which sucks. But yes, I read my first memoir, and of course, we'll talk about it when I get to it. It was actually the last book that I finished in the month of October. Well, I finished it today. I'll give you a little heads up. It's October 30th today, and there's no way I'm reading an 8th book before the end of tomorrow, and tomorrow's Halloween. So it's like reading a book right now is just not gonna happen. Anyways, let's get into the books that I read in the month of October. Enough blabbering. You're probably like, what time does she actually start talking about the books? And someone's gonna comment like, oh, she starts talking about the books at like 3 minutes and blah 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 seconds. So sorry about that. Okay, let's get started. The first book that I read in October was First Time Caller. First time I was about to say Collarson by B.K. Borison. Yeah. The first book that I read in October was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. There we go. This follows Aiden and Lucy, and Aiden is a talk show radio host of a like dating kind of, or like a dating hotline advice type thing. And Lucy's daughter calls into the hotline and is like, my mom really needs a date. She's single and sad and lonely, and I need her to have a boyfriend because I'm 13 and she can't be my friend anymore. She doesn't exactly say that, but that's pretty much the premise of the book. And, Lucy and Aiden meet and talk, and then it goes from there. And it was actually a very cute story. I ended up giving it a 4.25. I was very happy with this book, and I did not know what I was going to be getting into, just because I read Love Light Farms and I read the 4 books that are in that series, and it was cute, nothing memorable or to write home about. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but were any of them life-changing, like Abby Jimenez level type books? No, unfortunately. And so I was like, I liked Love Light Farms. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about First Time Caller, but this book definitely changed my mind about B.K. Borison. Not that like my initial thought of her was like negative from reading Love Life Farms. There was nothing from her writing that I really, really liked. And I feel like in this book, I really saw her like, because I think Love Life Farms was her debut novel, but like the writing has definitely improved. It wasn't cheesy. It was really heartfelt and pulled at my heartstrings. And heartstrings is the name of the podcast or radio show in the book. I love the character development and shift that we see in Lucy and how it kind of shows up in her relationship with Aiden, and Aiden gives such Conrad vibes. I am so here for it. I think he's become one of my favorite male main characters to read about this year. And I mean like Conrad vibes where he like pushes everybody away to like not like to help himself, but also to help the other people around him. He thinks by like keeping them at a distance, it's gonna like not hurt them, but it ends up like backfiring in the long run. We've seen it before. But yeah, 4.25. I'm very excited for, I think it's called Good Spirits. It's the Christmas book that BK Borison just came out with, and I'm so excited to read that book. So if it's anything kind of like First Time Caller with the writing style, definitely going to love it. All right, next book I read was Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine, and I gave this 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite romance book, but like I'll recommend it to people if they need like a nice fluffy romance book, if you know what I mean. So this follows Margot and Forrest, which I mean, like I'll get into it. Like this book is so weird. Margot is a romance writer, only she doesn't believe in happily ever afters, and all of her books have ended in happily ever afters. And then her like secret file where she wrote like a story that doesn't end in a happily ever after, or like she was like ranting about her fans and saying how like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm leading them on and giving them like false hope with my happily ever afters. It gets leaked to the public and she's like publicly shamed and humiliated and basically canceled as a romance author, and all of her fans like basically turn their back on her. And her sister books her a like 6-week trip to Alaska to write like a new kind of book to get her back on the map, essentially. And remember the part when I said that she is a romance author that writes happily ever afters with like cliche tropes and cheesy characteristics in a male main character? Well, that's Forrest. Forrest is, first of all, let's start with the name. His name is Forrest, and he is a lumberjack. Like, and then he somehow accumulates every single microtrope and characteristic like the Infinity Stones, and is just it's all wrapped up into our wonderful, hunky, tall lumberjack Forrest. Then this book proceeds to have every single microtrope from getting snowed in to one bed, etc., etc. None of those aspects really bother me about the book. What bothered me is that if our girl Margot is so against happily ever afters and like romance and finding true love, she caved to my hunky lumberjack Forrest so fast. Like, girl, how are you supposed to make me believe that you don't believe in happily ever afters and you're here like daydreaming about this hunky lumberjack? And now all of like, that's what irked me, is the switch up was so quick I didn't even blink. Like, I was like, girl, what are we doing here? And then I found myself skimming like a lot. The writing just did not flow and didn't really feel that effortless. I'm like looking at I'm like, the dialogue, babe. Like, are we, what? I mean, like, it's fine when it's like this for like, not, a lot of the book, but this is like what majority of the book looks like. And I'm like, okay, I thought I was gonna read like a cutesy romance book about these two people. And I'm reading a literary novel for some reason. Which might be a hot take, but that's not what I was anticipating, and my brain was not prepared for, because the cover doesn't give that at all. Like, I started reading A Little Life today, and that, I understand, doesn't have a lot of dialogue. It is so much of just third person inner monologuing. Like, and for that book, it makes sense. But like this? Anyways, yeah, I think you get my point. 3 stars. And this is where it starts to go downhill in the month of October. That's the first one. Also, I forgot to mention my October TBR. I read 3 books out of the 6 that I picked for my original TBR. I read Any Trope But You, When the Moon Hatched, which I'm going to talk about next. And then after this, I'm going to talk about People Watching by Hannah Bonham Young. So those are the 3 books that I read from my October TBR. The books I did not get to were Firefly Lane, Good Girl, Bad Blood, and Billy Summers, unfortunately, which are kind of the 3 books I was actually more looking forward to. But that's okay. We're going to talk about When the Moon Hatched, and I didn't like it. I gave this book 3 stars. I'm so sorry. I was expecting so much more out of this book because I know so many people who have given it 5 stars and like it's become like one of their favorite books literally ever. Oh my gosh, I wish it were me. I literally wish I gave this book 5 stars and that I loved it as much as other people, but I didn't. I didn't close the book. I actually listened to it on audio completely, which maybe wasn't the best idea. Maybe I should have like listened and read at the same time, and maybe I would have liked it a little bit more. But I only audiobooked it, which I've given books really high ratings from audiobooking, and this book just, I left feeling confused. This book kind of gives like Throne of Glass, because our main girl is an assassin, Rave, meets Fourth Wing, and there are dragons, but like I feel like we even like the dragons, I feel like we're more of like a side character than a main character. I feel like in Fourth Wing they're definitely considered kind of main characters, but the dragons in here, I thought we were going to see more dragons, but we didn't. I feel like there were some pacing issues. It just felt weird. I liked the writing a little bit with like the world building and the description of places. Like I could definitely like imagine while I was listening like where I was kind of at in the book. But the romance, I wanted so much more out of the romance. I like did not, all of a sudden their chemistry was just there. There was no emotional buildup, and it didn't make sense to me. And like, I was like, these 2 people are supposed to be together. I like don't believe it for 2 seconds. Cause I was like, there was no flirty banter. There was no wittiness. Like, I feel like they were just kind of both monotone and like, yeah, I guess we do like each other. And it's like, well, this wasn't fun. So with that, I don't know if I will continue the series. I know the second book is out now or comes out later this year. I don't know if I'm gonna read it. I don't know. I mean, maybe I will. I might watch like a couple TikToks about it and maybe see if that changes my mind. But yeah, let me know if you want me to read the second book, if I should give it like a better chance. But yeah, 3 stars, unfortunately. Are we ready for this next book? This is now officially the lowest rating I've ever given a book. I'm so sad. I can't believe I'm talking about this right now. People Watching by Hannah Bonham Young. Anyone else like kind of let down by this book? Hannah, what happened? Out on a Limb was so good. Out of the Woods was okay. I didn't like it as much as Out on a Limb. But even then, how do you go from that to this? This was like ick in a book. I like hate it. It was so bad. I feel betrayed, sad, hurt, let down, and disappointed all in one. I closed the book and I was like, thank God this is over. I was very close to DNFing this, and I was like, let me just like keep going and see what happens. At this rate, I would have felt the same if I DNF'd it. This book was just, I know my parents watch my videos. It was just so lusty and gross. And the guy, like, come on, from the cover, you're like, oh, he has like tattoos and like looks really hard and strong, but he's really like a big teddy bear softie. No, like it was so just ew. Like every time he talked, I was like, what is coming out of your mouth right now? And I've read our poor girl, what's her name? Prudence. Our poor girl. Okay. I've read like virgin books before where the girl is a virgin and the guy is not. And it's like, and those have like worked out well for me. Daydream is one example by Hannah Grace. Oh my gosh. I loved that book. Like just because also Henry is like one of my favorite book boyfriends ever, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is I've read the trope before, so I kind of know like my experience with the trope and like my pros and cons about it and what I like about it. And that trope in this book was just not handled well at all. It just felt icky, strictly physical. There was no chemistry between the two of them. Prudence is 25 and like is the most juvenile 25-year-old I've ever read about. It was just so surface level. There was no like character development, nothing. It was just monotone and flat. And Hannah tried to make Milo, the main guy, like that softy, grumpy looking guy, but like it didn't work because he's like so overly flirtatious. He's kind of like Jeremiah. He's so overly flirtatious that it just gets annoying, and every time he talks, you're just like, no, like, shut up, like, be quiet. This is ridiculous. And Prudence fell for it. I was like, girl, like, what are we doing here? I'm so, like, no, they're not gonna last. No chance. No chance that they last more than 6 months. Like, are you kidding me? No way. Anyways, 2 stars. All right, guys, another letdown. The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I'm so sad. What happened? I thought I was going to like this book more. I gave it 3.5 stars. This is so many people's favorite book. If not favorite book, favorite Catherine Center book. People give it 4s and 5s all the time. And I was like, did I read a different book? So Hannah is the bodyguard and Jack is the client. And it's kind of, what is it? Like a protective agent or something like that? It's not like a bodyguard. It's, you know, like almost like a spy. And I'm actually filming a reading vlog with this book and the memoir that I read. So you'll hear it again in the reading vlog. But Catherine loves to do this thing where she's obviously using first person and talking from the perspective of our FMC. She does not do dual POVs. And she does this thing where she dedicates a whole paragraph to asking a series of questions, and then we'll just answer said questions with a one-word answer at the bottom of the paragraph. And she does it a lot, and it bothers me so much. So that's one thing that icks me about the writing. With the plot, I feel like we are just over 300 pages. You know, it's supposed to be fast-paced. It's a rom-com. I feel like she was treating this as a slow burn romance with like hardly any tension. And then by the last 85% of the book, you're like, what are we doing here? Why aren't you together yet? And why is there no chemistry between the two of you right now? If this were like an Abby Jimenez level of like an emotional romance, then I feel like it would have worked maybe a little bit, but like this is a rom-com. It's dedicated as a rom-com. Supposed to have flirtatious banter. We're supposed to be creating some tension and being like, oh, like I think he likes me. Ooh, I think she likes me kind of like situation. And there was really none of that. So yeah, 3.5 stars. It just fell a little bit flat for me. There were some moments that were funny and that I liked, but I don't know if I will maybe read another Catherine Center book, at least not in the near future. I don't think I will pick one up soon. The next book I read was Zodiac Academy Book 4, Shadow Princess, and I gave this 4.5 stars, obviously. I don't think any of the books in the series are going to get under a 4-star. I don't think so. It's just like, it's routine at this point. Like, I'm in it. Like, there's no going back. One thing that is getting to me, though, is there's some slow burn happening, and it's extremely, extremely slow. And I'm not even halfway through the series and we are still like, we're barely at a simmer with like the tension that's going on. I'm like, what? Well, no, we're at a light simmer, but I'm just like, I don't know how much longer I can take this, but I have to write it through. I have to see it through, really. Like, this series is truly like watching your favorite TV show, let's say Gossip Girl, and at some points, you love the characters and you're rooting for them. And then at other points, you're like, I want to throw a brick at you. And I am getting into brick territory with some of these characters. And I'll say this again. I will praise the dramatized audiobook. I really think that's the only way to get through this series because it truly feels like a TV show is happening in my head. It's like watching Vampire Diaries or something. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so locked in right now. And I'm scared because I just started book 5 and the dramatized audio for that is 2 parts and only part 1 is out right now. And I am so screwed because when I finish that, not even half of the series is out on graphic audio. I'm like, why did I choose to start this now? That is completely on me. Anyways, 4.5 stars. Right, the last book that I read in October, which I finished today, it was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls, which is a memoir. Again, I'm reading this for a reading vlog, and you'll find out, obviously, what the theme of the reading vlog is when I post it. And along with The Bodyguard is also part of a reading vlog. But this was such a raw and gut-wrenching story. So this basically follows Jeanette and her childhood upbringing, essentially. Her experience with homelessness, a complicated relationship with her parents because her parents aren't really fit to be parents at all, and kind of learning how to be self-sufficient as well. The story really highlights her parents because they were kind of basically the core cause of why their family was the way that it was. So Jeanette's dad, Rex, is talked about very often. He is the one behind the glass castle. Essentially, Jeanette and him were like kind of confiding in each other with these plans to build a glass castle, which is where they were going to live one day. And these were like just childhood fantasies that he would tell Jeanette. He was a super smart and charismatic man. He's kind of like the guy who just knows random facts about literally anything. He's like that guy, like, is like essentially like instead of Googling something, you're like, oh, maybe like so and so would know that. That was Rex, but he was also on the other end would flip so fast because he was an alcoholic. So he was pretty much bipolar in that sense, like just being able to switch personalities so fast. And then her mom, Rosemary, was this like charismatic, free-spirited woman who essentially was allergic to responsibility and really wasn't fit to be a mother or be the woman of a household. She kind of rejected those traditional family ideologies, essentially. Like, it would get to a point where she did not care at all that her children were starving and that the roof of their house was quite literally falling apart and crumbling down. But this idea of the glass castle was kind of like a symbol of hope for Jeanette and her family. Like, oh, one day we're going to be able to live in this grand glass house. But it was also it was almost masked as an illusion. Like, it actually gave a sense of false hope. That was the reality of the situation. To have this idea of a well-structured glass house while your entire life and family is just crumbling and tumbling down around you. So Jeanette kind of took that symbol and was like, I don't need my dad or my parents to make this glass house. I am going to create this glass house myself. And that is how she created such a powerful story from her life and essentially created her own glass castle by becoming independent and not having to lean on her parents and not having to stay in kind of a corrupt household. But I'm not going to give it a rating, obviously, because it's like rating somebody's life. Like, I don't like put a number on that. So, but it was so eye-opening to read her story and like how she overcame all of those struggles that she described in the book. I really highly suggest reading it. It's such a eye-opening book and like makes you rethink your life and like not to take anything for granted. But those are all these 7 books that I read in October. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite read of October was. I would love to know, and make sure to give this video a like if you did, and subscribe, please, so you can come back for more fun, cozy, bookish content. That's what I love to do. The links to all my social media are down below, including my Goodreads and Fable. If you want to friend request me on Goodreads, I will accept your friend requests. And if you want to follow me on Fable, I will follow you back on Fable and we can be book besties and I can see what you're reading in real time as well as you can see what I'm reading in real time. But that is all for me, and that is all for this video, and I hope to see you guys in another one soon. All right, bye!